Hey everyone, Eggchen here again. Today I just want to talk about some recent thoughts, feelings, and realizations I've had about Final Fantasy XIV, and how it fits into my life, and maybe how it's fitting into yours as well. From start to finish, completing Dawntrail will take most players between 40 to 80 hours depending on how you go about it. And honestly for me, it was more towards the 80 hours, considering I did unlock quests, 8th occurrence, crafting, gathering, roulettes, etc. along the way. So with the Savage tier releasing in a few days, is it really normal for most players to put in that kind of time within a month, or even 2 weeks to catch the normal tier when it released? I feel exhausted, and it's because of the one upcoming activity in Final Fantasy XIV I love most: Savage raiding. Everything I've done since logging into Dawntrail has been for the ultimate goal of being ready for the Savage tier when it releases. Although I did complete the MSQ in full and I didn't skip anything, I was tempted the whole time. Granted, I don't think Dawntrail's story was a banger, and in the back of my head, I knew I had to push on through and hurry it up because I had a million more things to do after completing the MSQ. The temptation to skip sections of the story that seemed to drag on was becoming almost irresistible. It's as if the MSQ had merely become a roadblock for the enormous number of things that I needed to do after. So what exactly are these things I keep talking about? Well, for starters, I needed my crafters and gatherers to be max level, to make gear, pots, and food. I also need to stockpile massive amounts of materia to pentamel for combat jobs, crafters, and gatherers. Also on my list of things to complete is the raid tier each week. Let's not forget hunt trains, script farming, ethereal reduction mats, basic material farming, tomes, extreme trials, and the list goes on. So why do I feel this way? The last couple of raid tiers, we were able to unlock the raid tiers without pushing through any more MSQ. But it's the beginning of a new expansion. So there's no real way to write in a story for a raid without making you complete the MSQ unless the raid had nothing to do with the expansion at all. Which I suppose is an option, but I understand why that's not the way they did it. Truthfully, I won't complete half of the things I needed or wanted to get done before the raid tier starts. And that's okay. It's just the competitive, sweaty nerd inside of me that wants to chuck myself for being a filthy casual. So of course, let's address what most of the goblins in the room will say. Well, Egg, no one is forcing you to do Savage on opening day, that's your fault. Yeah, true, sorta. I've been leading the same static for years, and to be honest, it's the best thing about Final Fantasy XIV for me. We all want to get started as soon as possible and finish as soon as possible, and I don't want to hold my team back in any capacity. So yeah, I guess that's an option, but not really. I could also neglect my family, not create any content, or more or less devote my life to Final Fantasy XIV. Again, I don't think that's an option for me either. And I understand that in a way, I'm doing this to myself. But at the same time, any of you who are Savage Raiders are doing the same thing. We are all racing to get to the same point before the Savage tier releases. If I had to sum up this video in just one thought, it would be that it's just less enjoyable doing a massive 80-ish hour story on a time crunch. 80 hours in 30 days is a part-time job, and if you did it in 2 weeks, that's a full-time job. And for myself, and probably a lot of you, it's not impossible, but just unpleasant. I fell in love and have stayed in love with Final Fantasy XIV because there was no FOMO. But in this little window of time in the game and in my life, I am feeling that I indeed have a fear of missing out. I really wanted to open up the forum here and solicit your thoughts, especially if you are a Savage Raider with limited time. I asked this question of you: was Dawntrail enjoyable knowing you had to complete it within a month? Or would you have preferred that there was a way to do the story on your own time? I wanted to wrap up this little thought or discussion piece by thanking you guys for checking out this video. I was feeling just a certain way about this expansion release this time around, and maybe I'm not the only one. If you did enjoy this piece of content and would like to see more, please consider becoming a channel or Patreon member. Or, another free and easy way to help support the channel is just to click like or subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.